That was lovely. What beautiful, inspiring words. How did you like it, Ananta?
It was wonderful. I've heard a lot about Sri Aurobindo. Could you please tell me more about him, ma'am?
He was a revolutionary, a master, a yogi, and a visionary.
All this in one man?
Yes. We begin more than 100 years ago. Sri Aurobindo was the third child of Swarnlata and Dr. K.D. Ghosh. Dr. Ghosh was a very kind and benevolent man. But when he returned from England with a postgraduate degree, he was completely transformed.
What? What happened?
He developed a strange fancy, almost a mania. He thought everything Indian was bad. Everything English made him glad. Top to toe an Englishman, he took his 3 sons to England, for he felt his sons must have English education, imbibe only English ways.
It was very kind of you, Mr. Druitt, and your wife, to take care of my sons. Mr. Druitt, sir, my sons must grow up on the English soil, breathing only English air. They must learn English and grow up like all other English children do.
So shall it be, Dr. Ghosh. So indeed shall it be. I shall endeavour to do so to the best of my ability.
And no touch of Indian thought or culture. Mind you, the sloth and superstition of India must not affect my children.
Have no fear, Dr. Ghosh. I shall ensure that these adorable children of yours grow up in an absolutely English environment. What are your names?
I am Binoy.
And I am Manmohan.
He is my youngest son, Ackroyd.
Ackroyd? But that's not an Indian name.
Sir, my name is in fact Aurobindo Ghosh.
Oro means lotus. In our country, lotus is the symbol of beauty and divinity. Indeed, he's as lovely as a lotus, gentle and shy. I shall do the very best for them.
So began Sri Aurobindo's education. Mr. Druitt taught him English and Latin, while his wife taught him arithmetic, history, geography, and French.
Tiens, ce livre, et apprends ce poème de Baudelaire pour demain. Tu vas le réciter.
Bien sûr, madame, mais est-ce que je dois l'apprendre par cœur ou bien je peux le lire?
Comme tu veux.
So, Sri Aurobindo didn't have to go to school at all? Our little genius took delight not in the usual pranks of a child, but spent all his time in reading?
Yes, reading, reading, all the time reading. The Bible, all of Shakespeare's works. He travelled to his heart's content in the realms of the richness of European literature. The poets Shelley and Keats he fancied most. In fact, Shelley's Revolt of Islam had great impact on his young mind.
His head and feet are bare. His hands are bound behind with heavy chains. Yet none do wreak their scoffs on him. That scorn or hate has made him bold.
That scorn or hate has made him bold. His cheek, resolve has not turned pale. His eyes are mild and calm, and like the morn about to break. Tumult was in the souls of all beside. What a magnificent vision of freedom from tyranny and injustice. I foresee a period of great upheaval and revolutionary changes, and I feel that I am destined to play a part in it. Why bind life with chains of oppression when nature itself did not deem it so?
So, what is our little revolutionary talking about?
Our little Oro is always at it.
Oro, I have something to tell you. But where are your brothers?
I'll go call them. Binoy, Manmohan, Binoy,
Yes, ma'am.
come. Mr. Druid wants to talk to you.
Come here, boys. We have something to tell you. Mrs. Jewett and I are migrating to Australia.
But then, what about us?
Don't worry. My mother in London will take good care of you.
Residents in London, it would be endless delight. The brothers must be feasting and reveling, having a wonderful time.
No, not at all. They had a most difficult time. A time of trial and test, surrounded by difficulties, fearful poverty and want.
But why?
The reason is unbelievable. Their father, so generous was he, that hardly anybody who went to him for anything came back empty-handed. Whatever they asked for, he gave. And in giving, never hesitated, never thought, and never looked back. Thousands of miles away, his children were suffering from penury and starvation. It were these difficult circumstances that were to steel Sri Aurobindo's will, to face life with inflexible resolution.
I don't believe it, ma'am. Sri Aurobindo in such poverty and yet so strong.
Yes, that was how he was.
What will I not do to get another slice of bread? The first bite I've had since morning. I am really famished. Oro, do you realize we haven't had dinner for 2 long years?
You sound like Oliver Twist, asking for more at the orphanage. Count your blessings, Manmohan. We at least have this cup of tea. It is biting cold.
Look, I have a job now.
That's excellent. It will surely spare Baba the trouble of sending us money. But Dada, when will you study?
One can't help that. Father sounded very distressed in his letter. After all, it is noble work that he is doing. Oro, make sure you mention my job in your next letter. Let's hope it lessens his anxiety.
Yes, Dada.
And he just went on studying without a word of complaint.
Not a frown on his brow. And when he was admitted to St. Paul's School, his brilliance impressed his teachers.
Sir, could you correct this?
Certainly. Wonderful. Excellent. Perhaps one of the best I've ever read. Keep up the good work, my boy.
Thank you, sir.
Was that Aurobindo you were talking to?
Yes?
He's good, but I think he spends too much time on general reading. He's going to regret this preoccupation of his. Someday.
Why do you say that? Do you know that he has won our scholarship? Not only that, he has won top prizes in history and literature. Well, I'm not surprised. His English is better than most of the English. I discern in that boy seeds of greatness. He's a true genius.
How true. Did you know that Sri Aurobindo wrote as many as 9 books simultaneously, and that too on diverse subjects?
But that was when he was old.
Yes, but even now, not having enough to eat or wear, the incipient poet in him was already trying to come on his own. At the tender age of 16, Sri Aurobindo began to write poetry and wrote it throughout his life.
I know one of his poems. In the blue of the sky, in the green of the forest, whose is the hand that has painted the glow? when the winds were asleep in the womb of the ether. Who was it roused them and bade them to blow? He is lost in the heart, in the cavern of nature. He is found in the brain where he builds up the thought. In the pattern and bloom of the flowers he is woven. In the luminous net of the stars he is caught. In the strength of a man, in the beauty of a woman, in the laugh of a boy, in the blush of a girl. The hand that sent Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all his cunning to fashion a curl. These are his works and his veils and his shadows. But where is he then?
By what name is he known? Is he Brahma or Vishnu? Man or a woman? Bodied or bodiless? Twin or alone? Beautiful. He wrote that when he was in Alipur jail.
Jail?
Yes, he was a very prominent leader of our freedom movement.
But how when Manu spent all his childhood and youth amidst the western ways of life, how in him developed such deep love for his motherland?
How deep must have been that awakening, that this youth, so gentle and shy, unhesitatingly flung himself into the utmost danger for the freedom of his motherland. The answer is most interesting and unexpected. It was his own father who sowed these seeds in him.
Dear sons, the veils have finally been lifted from my eyes. I say veil and not blindfold, as the latter implies that the blindness was imposed on me. But no, it is I who have been a fool. I enclose a few news clippings
which I hope will illustrate my point better. I speak of the Britishers, my sons. That sceptred isle on the fair seas is nothing more than a haven for degenerate deceivers of the worst kind. They adhere to the highest principles of ethics in their own homeland, but choose to forget every principle while dealing with us Indians. The atrocities they have committed are a horrible tale of treachery and cruelty that will forever be woven into the tapestry of Indian history. If ever a person's dreams have been shattered, they are mine. I have thought so much of them, but they are so little, worse than the most base of human beings.
how selfish I am. I have spent years in worthless waste, while my motherland suffers and languishes in oppressive chains. She beckons me. I know now. I must go back.
Consequently, he joined the Indian Majlis, a revolutionary society in Cambridge. He delivered many revolutionary speeches, couched in the strongest language. Besides, he became a member of the Lotus and Dagger, another secret society, where, like all the other members, he took a vow.
We the children of India,
We the children of India
take a vow
take a vow
that we shall not rest in peace
that we shall not rest in peace
until our motherland
until our motherland
is free from the clutches
is free from the clutches
of the tyranny and oppression
of the tyranny and oppression
of the British government.
of the British government.
Sri Aurobindo appeared for the Indian Civil Service examination because his father fervently wished that he should be a great administrator. He passed with flying colors, but he felt no call for it.
Obviously, it would have meant working for the British, and he never wanted to do that.
Yes, he vowed not to be trapped by the services and managed to get himself disqualified from the riding test. Again and again chances were given, but he would not present himself. Since his desire to return to India was so intense, Binoy arranged a meeting between Sri Aurobindo and the Maharaja of Baroda. The Maharaja was a good judge of men and matters. He immediately recognized the worth of this resplendent youth and employed him there and then for rupees 200 a month. And so, in February 1893, after nearly 14 years, Sri Aurobindo set sail for India by the SS Carthage.
How eager his father must be to meet him and embrace him.
Yes, but then the unexpected happened. Just one small mistake.
Small?
Dr. Ghosh's bankers in London informed him that Sri Aurobindo had set sail for India by a certain steamer. But alas, they mentioned the wrong name. And strangely enough, that very steamer met with a disastrous accident. No one and nothing was saved.
Oh no, my most precious Oro. I don't believe this. This is not true. Oro.
How heartbroken he is.
He fell seriously ill and died after a few days.
But Sri Aurobindo reached India safely, didn't he?
Yes, strange indeed are the ways of fate. He felt on the one hand deep sorrow of his father's loss, on the other great joy of being back to his motherland. This brilliant youth, aflame with their love for his country, set foot once more on the purifying Indian soil, richly watered, richly fruited. He stepped ashore.
And lo, what a marvelous experience. Peace. A vast calm descended upon him, one of his first spiritual experiences. It all came unasked. After it came many and many another, infinite and vast and varied. This was just the beginning of his long spiritual life.
Coming to India after such a long time, Sri Aurobindo must have wanted to meet his relatives.
No, nothing of that kind. Leisure and ease never entered his mind. He joined the services of the Gaikwad immediately.
Come, Aurobindo. I have been eagerly waiting for you. Have you written that letter to the Viceroy regarding appointment of the new regent for Baroda? Good. You knew how important it was and had to be very carefully worded. And what about reorganizing the various departments about which I talked to you just the other day? I want them to function smoothly and efficiently. That speech which you wrote for me for the social conference, could you not make it a little bit simpler? It is so good, nobody will believe it's mine.
Why change it unnecessarily, Your Excellency? Do you believe that if it is made a little simpler, people will take it as yours. Good or bad, they will say, the Maharaja's speeches are always written out for him. The thought should be yours. That is what is important.
Realizing that Sri Aurobindo had a scholastic bent of mind, the Maharaja decided to make use of him in his college. To start with, Sri Aurobindo taught French and English, and then he was elevated to vice principalship.
Then he must have been a very good teacher.
Yes. Look, there's Mr. R.N. Patkar, a student of Sri Aurobindo.
Namaste, sir. Man says Sri Aurobindo was your teacher. Could you please tell me something about him?
Yes. Sri Aurobindo was loved and revered by his students for his magnetic personality and his original way of teaching. It's been long since I heard him, but I remember his figure and his melodious voice still rings in my ears. Once I asked him if I should read Macaulay to improve my English. Do you know what he said?
Do not be anybody's slave. Be your own master. By reading Macaulay or any other writer, you will never be like him. You will be but a faint copy to be derided by the world, never an original. Therefore, read any good author carefully. Think for yourself, form your own judgments, and cultivate a habit of writing. In this way, you will be the master of your own style.
Sir, what should be the chief aim of education?
The chief aim of education is to help the growing soul to draw out that in itself which is best and perfect it for a noble use. The teacher is not an instructor or taskmaster. He is a helper and a guide. The idea of hammering a child into shape by parent or teacher is barbarous. It is he himself who must be induced to expand according to his own nature.
Did you notice his eyes? There was a mystic fire and light in them. They penetrated into the beyond. Nothing could ever bind him to this material world.
Nothing? Are you sure, sir? I know of something which would have really mattered. Money.
Money? Money. Come, I'll tell you how he treated money.
What are you doing, sir? Do my eyes deceive me? Or I actually see you emptying your entire pay into this tray, open and unlocked. Why?
Well, it is proof that I'm in the midst of good and honest people.
But I never see you keeping an account which may testify to this.
It is God who keeps the account for me. He gives me as much as I want and keeps the rest to himself. At any rate, he does not keep me in want. Why then should I complain?
Complete surrender, an absolute self-giving to God. Without that, how could such words be spoken? Well, getting back to our story, even in the midst of his very busy schedule, Sri Aurobindo studied Sanskrit and the entire range of its classical literature, and he mastered several Indian vernaculars as well. The amount of literary work that Sri Aurobindo produced in Baroda was formidable. He studied everything about the Indian political movement, the condition of the country, the trends, the leaders, their ways and ideas, and he began to write a series of articles for the Hindu Prakash under the suggestive title New Lamps for Old.
Our actual enemy is not any force exterior to ourselves, but our own crying weaknesses, our cowardice, our selfishness, our hypocrisy, our purblind sentimentalism. I say of the Congress,
What is all this nonsense?
that its aims are mistaken, that the spirit in which it proceeds towards its accomplishment is not a spirit of sincerity and wholeheartedness,
What audacity!
and that the methods it has chosen are not the right methods. The Congress has not heard the distant rumbling of the volcano, of the ailing and tortured Indian proletariat.
Who's writing all
It might
this?
erupt one day. Unfortunately, we are at present the blind, led, if not by the blind, at any rate, by the one-eyed.
What revolutionary ideas!
What fiery language!
How soul-stirring!
Soaked in patriotic fervor.
This shall surely rouse the sleeping from their slumber.
The Congress, a bunch of anemic, slow-witted hypocrites. These moderates.
Deshpande must be taken to task. We must look into this matter immediately.
The flutter in the Congress made Deshpande request Sri Aurobindo to tone down his writings. He agreed reluctantly and began to write on the philosophy of politics. 1901 was a very important year for Aurobindo. He got married to the beautiful, educated and aristocratic Mrinalini Bose. He loved her a lot, but soon had to leave her in the care of his relatives because of the call of the motherland. What is this, Shejda? What do I hear? You are already planning to go back to Baroda?
Yes, Saro.
But why? It's only been a month since we came to Nainital. And what about Mrinalini? Have you thought about her?
There is no other way out. I have to go back.
So you'll just leave your young bride all alone?
But
Don't give me any justifications. Just look at her. She's been crying her eyes out since morning. Can't you reconsider your decision? You'd better.
is this true, my dear? But why are you so sad? You must understand. My work beckons me. My motherland beckons me. I'm sure you understand, don't you? There is much that I must accomplish. If you too become anxious at this time, it will only increase my worry and anxiety. You are my wife. You should be my strength, not my weakness.
must never tie you down. Never.
But what did he mean by the call of his motherland?
In 1902, Sri Aurobindo went to Bengal, where he set up a revolutionary center under the cover of a sports group. Here young men would train for revolutionary work. Did you know that Sri Aurobindo also practiced rifle shooting?
Rifle shooting? Sri Aurobindo, so gentle and shy.
Isn't it a revelation to you? Sri Aurobindo was the guiding force behind this center. Look, there he stands with the sword and the Gita in his hand.
As long as there is life in me,
As long as there is life in me,
and as long as India is not liberated
and as long as India is not liberated
from a chains of subjection,
from a chains of subjection,
I will carry on the work of revolution.
I will carry on the work of revolution.
If any time I disclose a single word
I disclose a single word
or a single event of the society
or a single event of the society
or harm it in any way,
or harm it in any way,
it shall be
at
at the cost of my own life.
the cost of my own life.
Vande Mataram!
Vande Mataram!
But what are they doing here?
They are preparing themselves for an open revolt against the impending desecration and mutilation of Bengal. The British, selfish rascals that they were, partitioned Bengal in 1905.
Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Down, down with British Empire! Down, 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 down! Down, down with British Empire! Down, 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 down! Sonar Bangla bhangte debo na! Debo na! Debo na! Sonar Bangla bhangte debo na! Debo na! Debo na! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram!
Revolt and agitation all around?
At last the whole nation awoke from its long night of slumber. The people were outraged. The old apathy and timidity were broken and a new force created which could not be destroyed. The cry of Swaraj and Swadeshi spread over the land. The great nationalist movement came out into the open. It was at this time that Sri Aurobindo wrote Bhavani Mandir. From the depth of his spiritual experiences, in the burning fire of his patriotism, emerged a new vision of Mother India. She was Mother Shakti, the infinite energy.
In India, Tamas has taken possession of the people. We have abandoned Shakti and are therefore abandoned by Shakti. India must shake off her lethargy and rise to her full stature.
But what is India, our mother country?
She is not a piece of earth, nor a figure of speech, nor a fiction of the mind. She is a mighty Shakti, composed of the Shaktis of all the millions of units that make up the nation. The Shakti we call India, Bhavani Bharati, is a living unity of the Shaktis of 300 million people. India cannot perish. Our race cannot become extinct, because among all the divisions of mankind, it is to India that is reserved the highest and the most splendid destiny. It is she who must send forth from herself the future religion of the entire world. Strength, more strength, is the need of our race.
What shall we do?
Hearken to the call of the mother. She is already in our hearts, waiting to manifest herself.
Vande Mataram!
Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram!
The Britishers have escalated their operations. What now?
This was just the beginning. The demonstration took the practical form of urging the people to boycott British cloth. Sri Aurobindo wrote several articles in the Yugantar in which he openly preached revolt and absolute denial of the British rule. But his true mettle was displayed when he joined in the editing of the Vande Mataram. His articles were in English, full of brilliance and pungency, not hitherto attained by the Indian press. It was the most effective voice of the nationalist extremists. Morning after morning, not only Calcutta, but the entire country eagerly awaited its vigorous pronouncements on the stirring questions of the day. It made its Indian brethren realize,
we must support violence against violence. It is indispensable to do so.
Nationalism cannot die. It is God who is working in India. God cannot be killed. We need Swaraj for the fulfillment of our Swadharma.
We must be ready to face tyranny and persecution. Oppression is God's method of creating a nation.
Do it down, overflow. Stand up against attack.
We are iron upon his anvil, and the blows are showering upon us, not to destroy, but to recreate. Without suffering, there can be no growth. You who feel a stirring within you, fling off the black veil of self. Break down the imprisoning walls of indolence. Vande Mataram!
Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Sujalam Supalam Malayaj Shitalam! Sujalam Supalam Malayaj Shitalam! Shasya Shamala Mataram! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Vande Mataram! Shubhra Josna Pulakita Yamini Pulla Kusumita Drumadala Shobhini Shubhra Josna Pulakita Yamini Pulla Kusumita Drumadala Shobhini Suhasini Sumadura Bhashini Sukadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Trinsha Koti Kantha Kala Kala Ninada Karale Trinsha Koti Bhujai Dhrita Kara Kara Vale Trinsha Koti Kantha Kala Kala Ninada Karale Trinsha Koti Bhujai Dhrita Kara Kara Vale Abala Kanumaya to Bole Bahubala Tarini Namami Tarini Vipudala Varini Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Tumi Veda Tumi Dharma Tumi Veda Tumi Dharma Tumi Veda Tumi Dharma Tumi Veda Tumi Dharma Vahi Prana Sharire Bhavute Tumi Vashakti Hridaya Tumi Bhakti Bhavute Tumi Vashakti Hridaya Tumi Bhakti Tumari Pratima Gauri Mandire Mandire Kamni Durga Dasha Praharana Dharini Kamala Kamala Dala Viharini Kamni Durga Dasha Praharana Dharini Kamala Kamala Dala Viharini Vani Vidya Rayini Namami Namami Kamalam Kamalam Adulam Sudalam Sukalam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Shamalam Saralam Sushmitam Bhushitam Dharanim Dharanim Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram
Wow, what an impact Sri Aurobindo had on his people. But ma'am, you said he loved his wife. But where is she then?
He loved her intensely. She was his confidant. His most intimate thoughts and feelings were revealed only to her through the personal letters which he wrote to her.
Dearest Mrinalini, I have received your letter of the 24th of August. I'm sorry I did not reply earlier. But remember what I told you once? This is a world in which, when you seek happiness, you find grief in its heart, sorrow always clinging to joy. To offer with a quiet heart all happiness and grief at the feet of God is the only remedy. Mine is not the same field of action, the same purpose in life, the same mental attitude as that of people today in this country. I am in every respect different from them. Perhaps you know what ordinary men say of an extraordinary view and endeavor. To them, it is madness. I have three madnesses. The first is that I firmly believe that whatever virtue, talent, learning and knowledge God has given me all belong to Him, and that I am entitled to spend only as much as I need for the maintenance of the family, and on what is absolutely necessary. Whatever remains should be returned to God.
The second madness has recently seized me. It is this: by whatever means, I must have the direct vision of God. Religion these days means repeating the name of God at any odd hour, praying in public, showing off how pious one is. I want nothing of this. If God exists, then there must be some way to experience His existence and realizing His presence. However hard the path, I am resolved to follow it. I would like to take you along also. Anybody can reach perfection by following it.
My third madness is that while others look upon their country as an inert piece of matter, a few meadows and fields, forest and hill, I look upon my country as the mother. What would a son do if a demon sat on his mother's breast and started sucking her blood? Would he quietly sit down to his dinner, amuse himself with his wife and children, or would he rush out to deliver his mother? Now, I ask you, what are you going to do in this connection. The wife is the Shakti, the strength of her husband. Will you diminish the strength of your husband by indifference, or redouble it by your sympathy and encouragement? You will say, what can an ordinary woman like me do in these great matters? I have no strength of mind.
My dearest, there is an easy way out. Take refuge in God. Enter the path of God realization. He will soon make good your deficiencies. Fear gradually leaves one who takes refuge in God. And if you can put your trust in me, if you can listen to me alone and not to all and sundry, I can give you my own strength. That will not diminish my strength, but increase it.
This is a secret of mine. I wanted to tell you. Do not divulge it to anybody. There is nothing to be frightened of, but there is much to think about. Yours, Oro.
Mrinalini perhaps was too young to understand the import of his revelations.
But what about the Bande Mataram? Did the government take any action against it?
The government was alarmed at the growing popularity of the Vande Mataram and the effectiveness of its attack. Despite repeated warnings, when neither the Vande Mataram nor the Yugantar seized the inflammatory writings, the government raided the Vande Mataram's office.
Raid the whole place at once!
The wolf has come.
What? What did you say? You think you're very clever, don't you? Your writings are full of sedition. Just because you write within the law, you think you can get away with it. Why don't you say something? Damn your silence! I'll shake you out of it. Are you not the editor of Bande Mataram?
No.
You lie, you rascal! You are the editor of Bande Mataram.
No.
What? Why this denial? Is he scared?
Sri Aurobindo, and scared? It is his intelligence that is evident here. He didn't want to be a martyr unnecessarily. He had so much to offer to the world.
Perhaps he didn't want to waste his life by being rash and thoughtless. But what happened to the trial?
He was acquitted for lack of evidence. The Bande Mataram case had a totally different result from what the government had expected. It brought Sri Aurobindo, who always preferred to remain behind the curtains, to the forefront, and he became a national figure almost overnight. The famous Surat Congress split was also engineered by him, along with Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Now all eyes were turned to him. The students, the young men who were swelling the ranks of nationalists, the intelligentsia, all flocked to him to hear his stirring speeches.
The restoration of our country to her separate existence as a nation among the nations is the goal of our endeavors. If India does not become free, man also will not become free.
What can we do? We are just students.
You must study. Study for her sake. Train yourself, body, mind and soul for her service. You will earn your living that you may live for her sake. You will go abroad to foreign lands that you may bring back knowledge, with which you may do service to her. Remember, nationalism is a religion, an imperative force from God. It is the Sanatan Dharma.
Nationalism and religion? I don't understand the relationship.
In the midst of all his tumultuous activities, something was urging and pulling him deeper and deeper into the spiritual life.
Yoga?
Yes. Now he took it up more seriously, for he had learnt that yoga gives power, and he wanted power to liberate India. He spoke of this to Barin, who knew of a yogi, Vishnu Bhaskar Lele, and sent a telegram asking him to come. In a flash of intuition, Lele heard, "You have to give initiation to a great soul."
I believe you practice pranayama and are interested in yoga.
Yes, I am. But it seems that I have come to a point where everything is blocked. I just can't move away. It would be my good fortune if you could help me.
Yes, of course. But for this, you must suspend all your political activities.
That, I'm afraid, is not possible. I feel I have to devote myself to the service of my motherland and solitary salvation. Leaving the country to its fate is not my purpose. But perhaps I could suspend my work for some time.
Good. Come, sit down. Let's see what we can do. Sit with me in meditation and look within yourself. You will see that your thoughts come to you from outside. Before they enter, fling them back.
I had never heard before of thoughts coming visibly into the mind from outside. But I did not think either of questioning the truth or possibility. I simply sat down and did as I was told. In a moment, my mind became silent as a windless air on a high mountain summit. And then I saw one thought and then another coming in a concrete way from outside. I flung them away before they could enter. And in 3 days, I was free. My mind became full of an eternal silence.
This was Sri Aurobindo's first experience from Lele. After that, he had many more intense spiritual experiences. Soon Lele felt that Sri Aurobindo did not require a human guru. He could fully rely upon the divine guide within.
But what about his work?
Henceforth, life became the field of the divine. God was the leader of the political awakening. Something other than himself took up his dynamic activity and spoke and acted through him. So with renewed fervor and intensity, Sri Aurobindo plunged himself into political work. He joined Baran at Calcutta at his ancestral house, now a centre for revolutionaries.
Sheshda! Sheshda! The devils are here!
Search the whole place upside down.
I am Aurobindo Ghosh.
Arrest him at once.
May I see the search warrant? But have you found any bombs or explosives on the premises?
You mind your own business. The Muzaffarpur bomb blast is evidence enough. Handcuff him to his waist.
You brute! You devil, I'll kill you!
Handcuff these two.
Swine, white-skinned dog! Shut up!
You filthy uneducated lawbreaker!
You think what you're doing is great? Do you? What we are doing is sublime and purposeful. Oh, you shut up!
So, it seems that you possess a BA degree. Is it not shameful for an educated person like you to be sleeping on the floor and in such a house?
I'm a poor man and live like one.
Then you worked up all this mischief with the idea of becoming a rich man? Why don't you say something? You think you can make all these bombs and explosives and get away with it? And what for? Your great cause, your motherland.
You rascal! Love for the motherland! What do you know about it? Shut up, you begging scoundrel! Bloody Indian! What?
Some kind of explosive.
You may think so. It is sacred earth from Dakshineshwar.
What? What do you mean?
You will not understand.
So Sri Aurobindo and others were arrested and sent to Alipur jail.
Sri Aurobindo stayed in jail for 1 year. How did he take it?
He was miserable at first, but then his intense spiritual experiences came to his aid in this moment of crisis.
What is this that has happened to me? I believe I had a mission to work for my country, and I had thy protection. Why then am I here on such a charge?
Wait and see. The bonds that you have not the strength to break, I have broken for you, because it is not my will, nor was it ever my intention that should continue. I have had another thing for you to do, and it is for that I have brought you here. To teach you what you couldn't learn for yourself, and to train you for my work.
It is Narayan who is guarding and standing sentry over me. The prisoners in the jail, these thieves, murderers, swindlers. It is Vasudev, Narayan, whom I find in these darkened souls. Give me thy Adesh. I do not know what work to do or how to do it.
I have given you a work, and this is to help uplift this nation. This is Sanatan Dharma for you. Before long, the time will come when you will go out of jail. For it is not my will that you should pass your time as others have to. I have called you to work. I give you the Adesh to go forth and do my work. My protection is still with you, and you shall not fear. This case which is brought against you, leave it in my hands. It is not for you.
So we see that the prison became an ashram, a hermitage for him, and all that the British government did was to bring him closer to God.
But what happened to the case? Who defended him? Did he get convicted?
No. C.R. Das, a very eminent lawyer and a very good friend of Sri Aurobindo, put aside all his practice and came to defend him. The final speech for the defense by C.R. Das spread over 8 days. It is still considered to be a masterpiece of the art of legal advocacy. It turned the course of the trial as far as Sri Aurobindo was concerned.
Thank you, Your Honor. My appeal to you, therefore, is that a man like this, who's being charged with the offences imputed to him, stands not only before the bar of this court, but stands before the bar of the High Court of history. And my appeal to you is that long after this controversy is hushed in silence, long after this turmoil, this agitation ceases, long after he is dead and gone, he will be looked upon as the poet of patriotism, as the prophet of nationalism and lover of humanity. Long after he is dead and gone, his words will be echoed and re-echoed, not only in India, but across distant seas and lands. That is why I say that a man in his position stands not only before the bar of this court, but stands before the bar of the High Court of history. The time has come for you, sir, to consider your judgment, and for you, gentlemen, to consider your verdict. I appeal to you in the name of all that is noble, of all the 1,000 principles of law that have emanated from the English bench. I appeal to you in the name of the distinguished judges who have administered the law in such a manner as to compel not only obedience, but the respect of all those in whose cases they administered the law. And let it not be said that an English judge forgets to vindicate justice. To you, gentlemen, I appeal in the name of the very ideal that Aurobindo preached. I appeal to you in the name of the traditions of this land. Let it not be said that 2 of his own countrymen were overcome by passions and prejudices and yielded to the clamor of the moment. That's all, Your Honor.
I pronounce Aurobindo Ghosh not guilty under section 131 and all other accused not guilty under section 123.
After Sri Aurobindo was released, a few days later, on the 30th of May, he made a most powerful and historic speech at Uttarpara. Nearly 10,000 people heard about his spiritual experience in pin-drop silence. He then resumed his work, delivered many speeches, attended political conferences and started 2 weeklies, the Karm Yogin in English and the Dharma in Bengali. His experience in jail radically changed his outlook. His field of action was enlarged enormously from the freedom of the country to the perfection of the human race.
But when did he go to Pondicherry? Is it now?
Yes. In the midst of all his tumultuous activities, suddenly one day he heard an Adesh, go to Chandranagar. And then he heard another Adesh, guiding him to go to Pondicherry.
I know about this. And then he set up the ashram.
No, that was much later, and the ashram was set up by the mother.
But when did the mother come to Pondicherry and know about Sri Aurobindo?
Though the mother, then called Meera, had not met Sri Aurobindo, nor had she read any of his writings. She had been practicing her own yoga in France on the identical lines as were being followed by Sri Aurobindo in Pondicherry. Her husband Paul Richard had been in correspondence with Sri Aurobindo and came to Pondicherry on some business. Meera came along with her husband. So on March 29, 1914, at 3:30 in the afternoon, when Sri Aurobindo received them, Meera instantly recognized him as the Krishna she had so often seen in her visions.
As the being I used to call Krishna. It matters not if there are hundreds of beings plunged in the deepest of ignorance. He whom I see is here on earth. His presence is enough to prove that a day shall come when darkness shall be transformed to light, when thy reign shall be indeed established upon earth. This is enough to explain why I am fully convinced that my place and work are near you in India.
When the mother bowed before Sri Aurobindo, he for the first time saw perfect surrender in action. The spiritual significance of this meeting was immeasurable and revealed itself progressively through developments and manifestations. Paul Richard persuaded Sri Aurobindo to help bring out the Arya, a philosophical review which embodied the meaning of yoga, the progress of humanity, and the process of the unification of the human race. From 1914 to 1920, Sri Aurobindo wrote and published all his major works, and he gradually began to withdraw into seclusion to pursue his sadhana and yoga.
Mom, is this the same yoga which we practice in our school?
No. Yoga means union, the union of the human soul with the divine. All the paths, the practices which lead to this union are called the paths of yoga. According to Sri Aurobindo, all life is yoga. The object of Sri Aurobindo's yoga is to transform life by bringing down into it the light, power and bliss of the divine truth.
But if he practiced yoga and sadhana, how did he guide and interact with his disciples?
Through letters. He wrote letters for 12 hours a day. He encouraged his disciples to write freely and regularly about their problems in sadhana and help them overcome their difficulties. These letters form a perfect supplement to his major works such as the Life Divine and the synthesis of yoga. In fact, there can be no better introduction to his writings than his letters.
I regard the spiritual history of mankind, and especially of India, as a constant development of a divine purpose, not a book that is closed, the lines of which have to be constantly repeated. I may say that it is far from my purpose to propagate any religion, new or old, for humanity in the future. A way to be opened that is still blocked, not a religion to be founded, is my conception of the matter. Mental questioning can bring gains if it is in pursuit of truth. But questioning just for the sake of skeptical questioning can bring either error or incertitude. If I am always questioning the light when it comes and refusing its offer of truth, the light cannot stay within me. Then, eventually finding no welcome, it will retire. It is easier to tread the psychic path when one's attitude is right.
The essential character of the supermind is the truth consciousness. Mind is an instrument of the ignorance, trying to know. Supermind is the knower, possessing knowledge.
Ma'am, Sri Aurobindo talks of psychic being, supermind, divine consciousness. Could you tell me the gist of his philosophy?
Don't you recite that passage, the ascending evolution, in the assembly hall? That is the gist of his philosophy. Why don't you recite it for me?
There is an ascending evolution in nature, which goes from the stone to the plant, from the plant to the animal, from the animal to man. Because man is, for the moment, the last rung at the summit of the ascending evolution. He considers himself as the final stage in the ascension and believes that there can be nothing on earth superior to him. In that he is mistaken. Undoubtedly, nature cannot be satisfied with such an imperfect result. She endeavors to bring out a being who will be to man what man is to animal, a being who will remain a man in his external form, and yet whose consciousness will be far above the mental and its slavery to ignorance.
Good. How well the mother has condensed Sri Aurobindo's thoughts. Well, getting back to our story, the mother, who had to go back to France in 1914 owing to the outbreak of the First World War, returned to Pondicherry on 24th April 1920 for the second time, never to depart again. As the number of Sri Aurobindo's disciples grew, the nucleus of a small spiritual community formed itself without any preconceived planning. It developed as an organic growth with Sri Aurobindo at its center. As Sri Aurobindo's sadhana grew in intensity, he receded into the background, and the disciples turned to the mother for inspiration and guidance. For the past some time, something seemed to be about to happen. The pressure of the high power, ready to descend, seemed unbearable. The daily meditations became more and more concentrated and intense. Then at last, on 24th November 1926, the great day, the Siddhi day, which the mother had been waiting for, arrived. The sun had almost set when the mother sent for all the disciples to assemble immediately.
There was a deep silence in the atmosphere. Many saw an oceanic flood of light rushing down from above. Everyone felt a kind of pressure above his head. The whole atmosphere was surcharged with some electrical energy.
The Lord has descended into the physical today.
The mother called this day the day of victory. It was then that the Sri Aurobindo Ashram was officially founded under the mother's care and guidance, and Sri Aurobindo retired into complete solitude to pursue his sadhana and yoga. Henceforth, Sri Aurobindo gave his life to the unique work of establishing the truth consciousness upon earth. When India got her freedom on 15th August 1947, on his birthday, in his Independence Day message he declared, "I take this coincidence not as a fortuitous accident, but as a sanction and seal of the divine force that guides my steps on the work with which I began life." In September 1950, Sri Aurobindo told his disciple scribe, "I must finish Savitri soon." These words found a meaning on 5th December 1950. In the early hours of this day, the master withdrew from his body and took Mahasamadhi.
He must enter the world's dark to bring their light. He must enter the eternity of night and know God's darkness as he knows his sun. For this, he must go down into the pit. For this, he must invade the dolorous vasts. Then shall be ended here the law of pain.
The gulf twixt the depths and the heights is bridged, and the golden waters pour down the sapphire mountain, rainbow ridged, and glimmer from shore to shore. Heaven's fire is lit in the breast of the earth, and the undying suns here burn. Through a wonder cleft in the bounds of birth, the incarnate spirits yearn. Like flames to the kingdom of truth and bliss, down a gold-red stairway wend the radiant children of paradise, clarioning darkness's end.